It's official. We are most likely headed for a government shutdown at midnight tomorrow, as Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer has rejected the Republican proposal to fund the government. Because even though Republicans control the House and the Senate, they need 60 votes in the Senate to fund the government, which would require 7 Democrats to come over. If all the Republicans were in favor, it actually requires 8 because Rand Paul is voting no on the grounds that Republicans are spending too much money. And Rand Paul has a point. Republicans did not really make any cuts to the budget. Now, they didn't increase spending. Spending normally increases, sometimes by a lot. They didn't do that. But they didn't cut the budget either. They agreed off the bat to keep funding levels almost exactly the same as they were in 2024. The Republicans were more than willing to compromise with Democrats. And still, that is not good enough for Democrats who had this to say.
The last thing Americans need right now is a pointless government shutdown. A shutdown will hurt just about every American.
The truth of this shutdown is that it's actually not about a wall, it is not about the border, and it is certainly not about the well-being of everyday Americans. The truth is, this shutdown is about the erosion of American democracy and the subversion of our most basic governmental norms.
It's a kind of dysfunction that is not about Democrats and Republicans fighting each other. It's just Republicans who just can't seem to get their act together so that we do the most basic job of government, and that is fund it and keep it going.
I'm sorry. That's not what Schumer and the Democrats had to say right now. That's what Schumer and the Democrats said over many years when they could blame Republicans for government shutdowns. Back then, government shutdowns were evil and a dereliction of duty and the end of our democracy and a cause of endless suffering and death. But now that it's Democrats who are shutting down the government, now government shutdowns are good and patriotic and normal and American as apple pie. Funny how that works. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Major story out from CBS. Well, you were all focused on the millions and millions of Hispanic illegal aliens crossing the border with the help of face-tattooed criminal cartels for decades now. CBS News has the real story. The Irish illegal aliens, Oh, little leprechauns hiding out in all the corners of the country. We'll get to that in one second. First, though, I want to tell you about Allegiance Flag Supply. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America that was made right here in America by the good folks at Allegiance Flag Supply. There is no better way to show your love of country, love for our troops, and love for freedom than by flying your American flag. And do not get a cheap, flimsy one that was made overseas. An Allegiance flag tells a story. It was handcrafted in Charleston, South Carolina. All the components from the flagpole to the spinners and mounts were sourced right here in the U.S. An Allegiance flag shows support for your country and support for the hardworking men and women who make this country great. I love a good American flag. I have an Allegiance flag for my home. I have, for 15 years now, had a flag flying in the back of my car, right in the rearview mirror. I like it. It's important because symbols symbolize something, okay? So you want to rep your country, especially at a time when people want to fly a lot of other flags. I encourage you to visit showallegiance.com. Experience the difference of an American-made flag. Again, go to showallegiance.com. You'll save $35 off your complete flag set. Showallegiance.com for a superb product that you can fly outside your house. They have cool coasters made of great leather. They have a nice little keychain with a little American flag in it, good leather. Go to showallegiance.com for American flags made the American way. Chuck Schumer taking a lot of L's. Chuck Schumer has just weighed in on a story we talked about earlier in the week. Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud Khalil was a Columbia graduate student. He graduated in December. He led a lot of the pro-Palestine stuff on campus there and made life generally unpleasant for normal people and especially for Jewish students. And now the Trump administration is revoking his visa and telling him to get out of America. So this has divided people, even within party institutions. Is this an assault on free speech? Is this just kicking terrorist sympathizers out of the country? Is this just doing Israel's bidding and oversimplifying the Israel-Palestine conflict? What is it? What should we deport Mahmoud Khalil? You can easily imagine people on the left and the right in favor and against it. Well, one of the top Democrats in the country, who is Jewish himself, Chuck Schumer, has weighed in, and he is on Khalil's side. He does not want to deport Mahmoud Khalil. Here's what he had to say. He wrote a novel basically about this. He wrote a War and Peace about this. I'll shorten it a little bit. Schumer writes, I abhor many of the opinions and policies that Mahmoud Khalil holds and supports, and have made my criticism of the anti-Semitic actions at Columbia loudly known. Mr. Khalil is also a legal permanent resident here, and his wife, who's 8 months pregnant, is an American citizen. While he may well be in violation of various campus rules regarding how the protests were conducted, that's a matter for the university to pursue. I have encouraged them to be much more robust in how they combat anti-Semitism and maintain a harassment-free campus. The Trump admin must articulate criminal charges or facts that would justify his detention or deportation. If the admin cannot prove he violated criminal law, then it is wrong. They are violating the First Amendment protections we all enjoy. They should drop this wrong-headed action. Okay. I now have enough information to conclude we should deport Mahmoud Khalil. Previously, it was a little complicated. I'm perfectly willing to acknowledge that debates over the First Amendment can be complex. It's not black and white. I wrote a whole book about how debates over free speech and censorship are actually much more complex than the left or the right make them out to be. So I'm totally willing to acknowledge that the Israel-Palestine conflict is a difficult issue. It's thorny. It's complex. One can understand a multiplicity of arguments. One cannot exactly understand supporting Hamas, but one can understand that there is a variety of views on it. However, for me, for a fella, maybe I'm a little thick in the head. I don't know what it is. I don't understand all the nuances of the Israel-Palestine conflict. I don't know every single line of the U.S. code pertaining to how we might deport legal residents who are not citizens, who are on campus, who are engaging in these kinds of demonstrations. For me, I look around and I see if you are on the same side as Columbia graduate students and Islamist revolutionaries and Chuck Schumer, you're just on the wrong side. I'm looking around at this, and I think this is an important rule. Forget about Columbia, forget about this particular issue. This is just a good rule in politics. If you do not have, in your limited stock of reason, the ability to go through every pro and con, every single angle of every single political issue, and you want to figure out which side you come down on, look at the people who come down on each side. When I look on the free Mahmoud Khalil, leave him in America, he's got the right to be here kind of side, I see radical leftists, I see Ivy League graduate students, some of the most wrong-headed people in the entire country as a generalization. I see Chuck Schumer. I see Islamist revolutionaries. I see Greta Thunberg. I see the establishment media. I see the worst people in the country. I see the worst people politically in the world. Okay, they're on the side of, we support Mahmoud Khalil. Let him keep waving his kefias or whatever around Columbia. And then when I look on the side of people who think he should not be in the country, it's immigration restrictionists, it's Christians, it's the Trump administration, it's people who do not particularly support Hamas or the Palestine liberation movement. I don't know. It seems to me pretty clear, actually. I know it's a complex issue in the background, but when I look at this particular instantiation of it, Chuck Schumer was enough to push me over the edge. That's it. If all the worst people are on one side, generally speaking, 999 times out of 1,000, probably you should be on the other side. Secretary of State Marco Rubio just weighed in on this very issue. He was asked if the deportation proceedings against Mahmoud Khalil violate some constitutional rights, or specifically the First Amendment. Here's what he had to say.
Your revocation of the green card, to many, is seen as one of the most anti-speech actions a secretary can take with his powers. How do you respond?
Yeah, when you enter this is an important point, and I'm glad you asked this question. When you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country, on a visitor's visa, okay? You are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. This is not about free speech. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with. No one has a right to a student visa. No one has a right to a green card, by the way. So when you apply for a student visa or any visa to enter the United States, we have a right to deny you for virtually any reason.
My estimation of Secretary Marco Rubio is growing by the day. This is a beautiful way to articulate American liberty. He goes, hey, nobody has the right to a visa. Nobody has the right to a green card. Some foreigner comes over here and then demands to be treated with all of the privileges of an American citizen. No, I don't think so. When you apply for a visa, we have the right to reject you for virtually any reason. And if you don't benefit the country, if you kind of mess things up, like you cause mayhem on our college campuses, we have the right to get rid of you. That's our right. This is a sturdy understanding of political liberty. I talk about the classical and liberal versions of liberty on the individual level. Well, this is a great way to understand it at the political level. Liberty, in the classical tradition and up through the Middle Ages, would have been understood as the right of a place to govern itself. You know, the right of the Athenians not to be invaded and conquered and have their women and children sold into slavery and their men slaughtered. That's what we would have understood as liberty in the classical and medieval eras. Now, we've totally lost a sense of national liberty, of the liberty of a people. So now we pretend that foreigners all over the world have the right to American citizenship, have the right to mess up our campuses, have the right to jobs in America, have the right. They don't. They don't. We have rights. We have certain individual rights, sure. Frankly, the rights language is really overblown, but we do have certain individual rights, but we also have the collective right to be a country, okay? We don't need to put up with people who are not making America better. Ask yourself this basic question. Does Mahmoud Khalil make America better or worse? Obviously worse. He's wrong about a great many things. I don't even care what you think about Israel-Palestine. He's wrong about a great many things. I'm willing to bet he's a Columbia graduate student who's out there shrieking and screaming with a bunch of unwashed leftists. Why would we keep him here? He's bad for America. Get rid of him. Many such cases, by the way. I think rather than restrict this example of a muscular administration policy, I think maybe we need to expand it, okay? We need to protect ourselves. We need to protect the most vulnerable among us. That's why we got to check out Preborn. Go to preborn.com/Knowles. Did you know that Andrea Bocelli, Steph Curry, Justin Bieber, and Tim Tebow almost didn't exist? Or rather, their lives were almost ended just shortly after they began to exist? All their mothers were encouraged to end their pregnancies. When a woman faces an unplanned pregnancy, she's often pressured to terminate, kill the kid. That's where Preborn steps in. Preborn and their network of clinics offers compassionate care to mothers, providing the support they need to choose life, including a free ultrasound. When a mother hears her child's heartbeat, she becomes twice as likely to continue the pregnancy. If you believe in protecting life, it is time to join with Preborn. Together, we can empower women to make life-affirming choices. When we support mothers and motherhood, we transform families and futures. Just $28 provides one ultrasound, and $140 helps rescue 5 babies. Monthly donors receive stories and photos of the lives they help save. I personally support this organization. I strongly encourage you to give what you can. Dial pound 250, say baby. That is pound 250, keyword baby. It's a really, really good ROI on your investment here, okay? Saving the most vulnerable among us. Go to preborn.com/Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S. Make a difference today. Preborn.com/Knowles. Also, folks, it's Lent. You know this. We're coming toward the end of the first full week in Lent. You need to get your Smells and Bells candle. We have sold about a bazillion of these candles since Mardi Gras. We still have some. We've got our poor candle maker working around the clock, 25 hours a day, 8 days a week to furnish them. It's really great. It's the best candle we have. It's my favorite. Smells and Bells makes your home smell like a 12th century monastery. So head on over to thecandleclub.com/Michael. Get yours. We might run out if our candle maker collapses from exhaustion, but they're really superb. So in the meantime, while we have them, make sure you get yours. Speaking of the Trump administration and foreign policy, amid the looming government shutdown and amid debates over migration and America's leadership in the world, the Prime Minister of Ireland just came to visit the White House. Trump was sitting with him in the Oval Office, and the two of them got the greatest question I have heard of the second Trump administration, and Trump himself gave the greatest answer.
Ireland is known for very happy, fun-loving people, great attitude, many in this room right now that I've met. Why in the world would you let Rosie O'Donnell move to Ireland? I think she's going to lower your happppiness level.
That's true. Thank you. I like that question.
Mr. Prime Minister, are you expecting?
Do you know who she is?
Yeah.
I'm joking.
You better off not knowing.
President Trump.
So we covered on the show yesterday, Rosie, to her credit, is, as far as I can tell, pretty much the first big lib who threatened to leave America if Trump won and then actually left America, and she moved to Ireland. She's trying to get her Irish citizenship. Every election, all the libs say, we're going to flee the country if the Republican wins, and then they never do it. Rosie actually did it. She goes to Ireland. So the Irish PM is there, and the reporter says, why on earth would you let Rosie O'Donnell into your country? You have such a great country. Why would you let Rosie O'Donnell in there? And the guy's looking at him. He has no idea who Rosie O'Donnell is. And Trump just got smirk. Yeah, I like that question. Yeah. You don't know? It's better that you don't know. It's better that you don't know. Move on. President Trump began a feud with Rosie O'Donnell in like 2005 or earlier. This is a 20-year feud with a TV host and movie actress. And he's still joking about it. He's not furious. He's not red in the face. He's not attacking her. He's just kind of making a joke about it, and he's keeping it up. An important thing to remember about that feud, Rosie O'Donnell started that feud. It wasn't Trump who started it. We can actually learn a fair bit about Trump from his answer to this joke question. Rosie started the feud when she accused him on television of being bankrupt. So Rosie started it, hit him a little bit. Trump then escalated it to 11. He turned the dial all the way up to 11, and he just ruthlessly, rhetorically pummeled this woman for now going on or over 2 decades, up to and including when he was in the Oval Office. If you're Xi Jinping, if you're Vladimir Putin, I'm not saying that that kind of response dictates your foreign policy, but it's helpful to remember that Trump doesn't forget. He is loyal to those who are loyal to him. He holds grudges against those who are not loyal to him. He has a very long memory. He's not above getting down and fighting, even when he's meeting with a head of state as president himself. And he's funny. He's a funny guy. Speaking of the Irish, CBS News has a really earth-shattering report. This came out yesterday from Emmett Lyons, Joanne Stocker. Irish, undocumented, and unsure of their future in Trump's America. I won't read the whole article, but you understand there is a major scourge, according to CBS News, of Irish undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens. You see, because while we all pay attention, we foolishly pay attention to the millions of Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, Ecuadorians who walk across the Rio Grande every year with the support of the face-tattooed, Satan-worshipping criminal Mexican cartels. We focus on that. We think that's the big illegal immigration problem. But that means that we totally ignore the many, many Irishmen who swim across the Atlantic Ocean and then shimmy up the pier at South Street Seaport and sneak into New York City. How could we ignore that? Let's focus on the real problems, folks. I wonder how many Norwegians are also, there must be 2 or 3 Norwegian illegal aliens, right? Who sneak onto, salmon boats and get into our ports that way. Why are we focused on the Hispanic illegal aliens just because they come over here to the tune of millions of people a year, 11 to 16 million in the country illegally right now? Why, let's get our priorities in order. What does CBS say? I'm not going to read the whole article, though. It's pretty funny. Recent estimates from the Irish government suggest there are as many as 10,000 undocumented Irish migrants across the United States. 10,000. 10,000. There are, conservatively, between 11 and 16 million illegal alien Hispanics who cross the Rio Grande with the criminal cartels, bringing crime into the country. But there are 10,000 Irish people. A drop of a drop of a drop of a fraction of an iota of a drop in the bucket of illegal immigration. Many have lived in the shadows for decades, waiting for a path to citizenship that may never come. Now, as Trump deports people, anxieties have heightened. They interview one Irish migrant, Mary, the illegal alien Mary, fears for her own status. She says communities of color are bearing the brunt of President Trump's immigration crackdown while she can fly somewhat under the radar. There's some very hard-working people that have set up businesses and are employing people, and all of a sudden, they're on a plane somewhere. Their lives have changed, and it's very hard. I absolutely do feel for people. Another undocumented Irish, Aisling, says that the Irish sometimes become collateral damage during the ICE raids, but they primarily target Latino communities, something she has condemned as racist. Aisling says, if ICE were to walk into my work, I could definitely just blend in with the crowd. But the fear for me is getting pulled over or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. She is in the wrong, they're all in the wrong place at the wrong time. They're in America illegally during the Trump administration. But what of the claim? The whole point of this article, the whole point of all these interviews is to say, you racists, you racist Trump supporters, you don't care when it's white Irish illegal aliens in America. You only care when it's swarthier Hispanic illegal aliens. You're not, the Irish illegal aliens can fly under the radar. That's true. Probably they can. I mean, Irish illegal aliens do get rounded up in these raids. That was true long before Trump, back when we enforced immigration law. That's true. Irish pubs in New York and things like that. But it's true. They can blend in a little bit more because America, until the 1960s, was roughly 90% white, still majority white, and white people are Irish people are white. And it's true that Hispanic people are not white, so they stick out a little bit more. Though I don't think that President Trump is going in and rounding up Hispanics who are wearing polo shirts, speaking perfect English, working ordinary jobs. No. He's going into the places where we know that illegal aliens are. He's in these raids, he's targeting the kinds of illegal aliens who, have face tattoos, run brothels, people. So, yeah, you're right. It's easier for the Irish to blend in with the legal citizens. It's also relatively easy for the legal Hispanic American citizens to blend in. Tom Homan knows who he's going after here, okay? This is such desperation from the left. They know the jig is up. They know that old Irish jig is up. And now their last gasp is, you're racist? Look at the Irish, all those Irish cartels that are here. I don't see a lot of Irish cartels. Now, I want to tell you, speaking of American Renewal, I want to tell you about Renewal by Andersen. Text Knowles to 400-400. Are you tired of wrestling with windows that stick, doors that leak, fog between the glass panes, those rotting frames, warping, drafts that aren't just annoying, they're hiking up your energy bills every month? Experience the Renewal by Andersen difference. As both manufacturer and installer of custom-built windows and doors made right here in the USA, they handle everything from consultation to installation. That is why they've earned more 5-star reviews than any other leading full-service window company, with over 500,000 homeowners recommending their hassle-free approach. I have a personal connection here in that my cousin has worked for Renewal by Andersen for years and actually was working for them even before they came on my show. So I have an unvarnished take on it. It's a great, great company. Right now, text Knowles, KNWLES, to 400-400 for a free consultation to save $379 off every window and $779 off every door. These savings will not last long, so be sure to check it out by texting Knowles, KNWLES, to 400-400, KNOWLES, to 400-400. Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting rules for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Speaking of the law, huge story. I've been meaning to get to this all week. The Supreme Court is set to review the ban on conversion therapy, specifically in Colorado. What is conversion therapy? Pretty crazy to me, man. Okay, now, speaking of conversions, big changes, President Trump appears to be on the precipice of a ceasefire in Ukraine. Here is Secretary of State Marco Rubio explaining that potential ceasefire.
Today, we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. I want to personally we both want to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Majesty, for hosting us, for making this possible. They've been instrumental in this process, and we're very grateful to them for hosting us here today. And hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians. And we hope that they'll say yes, to peace. The ball is now in their court. And but again, the president's objective here is, number one, above everything else, he wants the war to end. And I think today Ukraine has taken a concrete step in that regard. We hope the Russians will reciprocate.
Okay. So Trump, he gets the Ukrainians in line. We're going to do a peace deal. The Ukrainians are kicking and screaming, coming to the table. You remember Zelensky made that big sensation in the Oval Office, picks a fight with J.D. Vance. Later, according to President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, later Zelensky sent an apology letter to Trump, so they get back on a decent relationship. But Trump's got them at the table, and now he says, okay, the ball is in Russia's court. What does Russia do? Yesterday, Putin shows up in Kursk, the one Russian territory that the Ukrainians have managed to invade and capture. He shows up to Kursk in military fatigues. And it doesn't look like this guy's ready for peace. I don't know. It looks like this guy's ready to personally lead troops into battle. Just a big middle finger, or whatever the offensive salute is in Russia, at President Trump. So ironically, what you you are still having from the liberal media and the squish Republicans and the people who just haven't been paying attention to Trump for a decade now, is you had them saying, this Trump, he's going to give up Ukraine for no reason. We're not going to get anything out of this. We will have wasted a bunch of money there. The Ukrainians will have died for nothing. He's going to give all this territory to Putin. He's sucking up to the Russians. He's upending and destroying the global order. But what are you more likely to get? Well, right now, looks like by Trump securing the mineral deal in Ukraine, it looks like you have America more committed to Ukraine, because America now has an incentive to support Ukraine. Looks like you've got more Americans in Ukraine, maybe not in military fatigues, but more Americans who are going to have to develop that minerals industry, the mining operation. And it looks like you've got Trump and Russia at loggerheads, not necessarily coming closer together, but Russia rejecting, saying niet to that peace that Trump offers. But you might potentially have Trump deepening America's ties to this war. I'm not saying that is guaranteed to happen. I'm just saying that is the exact opposite of what all of the Ukraine hawks have been whining and crying about for the past few weeks. But look at how it's worked out. And by the way, you are even seeing this in Trump's European policy. The libs have been screaming and crying that Trump is going to destroy NATO and the Atlantic Alliance, and Europe is going to fall prey to Putin. What happened? We're now getting a story, this out of the Telegraph, that Trump is considering pulling troops out of Germany, something like 35,000 troops, and not bringing them home, putting them in Hungary. I love Hungary. I plan to be in Hungary within a month or two. Trump saying, look, we're going to pull the troops out of Germany. Oh no, he's giving up on Europe. He's giving up on NATO. What happened to America's leadership in the world? Wait, and he's putting them in Hungary, potentially. That's closer to Russia. That's in a country that Russia would be far more likely to invade, that Russia, in fact, has invaded, and that the Soviet Union dominated for the back half of the 20th century. Hold on. You're accusing Trump of just surrendering to Putin. If anything, he seems to be tougher on Putin than the Democrats have been. But he's tougher in a smarter way that is more likely to secure peace and to secure American interests. It's the same thing they said with the Russia hoax. Oh, Trump, he's a secret KGB sleeper cell Manchurian candidate. He gives Putin everything he wants. On Trump's watch, that would be the only administration in the last 20 years during which Putin has not further invaded another country. Putin invaded Georgia under Bush. He invaded Crimea under Obama. He stopped under Trump. He went further into Ukraine under Biden. I don't know. I give the guy a little bit of credit. Seems like a pretty wise foreign policy to me. But we got to wait and see. We got to watch. And you don't just watch the Daily Wire. You are the Daily Wire. Put your money where your values are, huh? Join All Access, get everything, every article, every show, every documentary, every film, 100% uncensored and ad-free. Live chat with me, all the other Daily Wire hosts during our weekly exclusive All Access live events, debate with our writers, connect with a community that thinks for itself. Join now at dailywire.com/subscribe. My favorite comment yesterday is from Stray1239, who says, how many people who said they were going to leave the country if Trump got elected actually did? Only Rosie O'Donnell. Wow. That is a full circle of Trump's comment during a primary debate that may have won him the GOP nomination. You remember Megyn Kelly said, Mr. Trump, you've called women. She's going on. And Trump, he interrupts her. He says, only Rosie O'Donnell. And he just stole the show with that line. And now it's full circle. How many libs have actually fled the country? Only Rosie O'Donnell. Now, speaking of confused liberal women, Elizabeth Warren, has spent much of her career describing herself as a Native American. She is the whitest woman you've ever seen, whiter than the freshly driven snow. And yet she pretended to be an Indian. She pretended to be an Indian to get her job at Harvard. She pretended to be an Indian when she submitted white people recipes to an Indian cookbook called Pow Wow Chow. She then, when she was called out on pretending to be an Indian, she took a DNA test and found that she was very likely something like 1,024th Native American. And she cited that as evidence that she was, in fact, an American Indian, feather not dot. And most people laughed at that and said, lady, you are as white as can be. Well, Democrats, as the government shutdown looms, as we have two major wars going on around the world, Ukraine and in Israel, as we have the economy sputtering, Democrats are focused on the real important issues. Jamie Raskin, Democrat in Congress, focused on the real important issue of trying to censure President Trump because he called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas during his joint session address a couple weeks ago.
Congressman, a protest a day keeps the fascists away. I want to stay on this Democratic response for a quick moment. What does it say to the public when you have someone like Al Green step up in the way that he did, and you have 10 Democrats who vote in line of censure?
If we were censuring anybody, it should have been Donald Trump, who I don't think had been back to our chamber since he incited a violent insurrection against us. And then he used his pulpit in order to call a sitting member of the United States Senate Pocahontas. So I think a racial and ethnic slur from the president was a far greater insult to the dignity and decorum of our chamber.
Okay, so if I have this right, Trump did a racism because he made fun of Elizabeth Warren for being a member of a race that she is not. Is this postmodern racism? Have we reached a level of absurdity in racism that you can now do a racism by making a joke about someone lying about her race? And that's what Raskin wants to talk about. This is a Democrat member of Congress wants to talk about on cable news. It's why Van Jones yesterday, a pretty smart Democrat analyst, he said that thinking about the future of the Democrat Party was a nightmare. And that's why. Because that's the best they got. When faced with this electoral tidal wave that hit them in November, when faced with President Trump's continuing pretty high approval ratings, they say, no, but he's a racist because he pointed out that one of our big politicians lied about her race. Is that going to cut him? Can we get him now? No, you can't. So the Democrats are in horrible, horrible trouble. And they're trying to fix it. The smart Democrat politicians are trying to move to the center. They realize that they got absolutely clobbered, especially in the trans issue. Of all the social issues, the trans issue really hurt them in November. They realized they got clobbered on the open border. They realized they got clobbered on the campus protests. They realized they're just in a bad place. And every time they open their mouths, they make things worse. So the smart Democrats are trying to tack to the center. And you're seeing this nowhere clearer than with Gavin Newsom. Governor Patrick Bateman, American psycho himself, he has launched a podcast. After the embers cooled on the major city in his state that burned to the ground because of his terrible governance, he started a podcast. Of course, that's what every white man is legally entitled and required to do in 21st century America. You have to have, every white man must have his own podcast. Some other people can have podcasts too, but literally every white man in the country, I believe, has one at this point. And what's he do for his podcast? Does he invite on the choir? No, he doesn't. His first guest is a conservative Republican, Charlie Kirk. His next guest, at least the next guest that we've heard about, one of the architects of MAGA, Steve Bannon. And the weirdest thing about these interviews is they're pretty friendly. Gavin Newsom, he's joking with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk says, hey, remember that time you lied to everyone and shut your state down, but then you went to the French Laundry and you had a really nice dinner and you violated your own rules, you terrible hypocrite? And Newsom says, oh, yeah, yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. And he's buddy-buddy with him. Charlie Kirk and Gavin Newsom, they look like bosom buddies by the end of that interview. Same thing is true of Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon goes on the show with the man that Edmund Smirk calls woke Caesar. And this is how they end their, I'm not even going to get into what they talked about. This is just how they ended their interview.
Bright future.
Hey, Steve, I really enjoy this conversation. I think it's incredibly valuable, and I appreciate the spirit to which we were able to engage, and I hope we can continue the conversation, and I hope we get out of this week without any further disruptions. It's been a hell of a beginning of administration, and I appreciate your advocacy. I also appreciate that you call balls and strikes as it relates to what you're seeing with the administration.
I also think that for your audience, there's a saying that there are decades in which nothing happens and there are weeks in which decades happen. We're living in that time right now. So whatever happens this week, next week, it's going to be quite intense. We have an economy to turn around geostrategically. The beginning of the kinetic part of the Third World War has got to be stopped. So we're living history every day. And I'm just honored you had me on here, and we were able to conduct this in some level of decency.
I appreciate it, Steve. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
There it is. That's not a debate. People thought, oh, wow, especially when they announced Charlie Kirk was going to be the first guest on Newsom's show. So, that's going to be a great debate, won't it? No. It's not a debate. Gavin Newsom did not invite Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon on to have a debate. Gavin Newsom invited Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon on because Gavin Newsom realized that Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon are his best paths to the presidency. At least, I'm not saying actually becoming friends with them, but appearing to be friendly with them. That's Newsom's best path to the presidency, because most voters voted for Trump, and Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon are major Trump world figures. That's why he's doing it. It's a simple calculation, actually. Hey, who did most people vote for? Okay, I'm going to be friendly with those people. That's it. It's not complicated. I'm not saying that Gavin Newsom is Count von Metternich here, okay? I'm saying he's just a really, really slick politician. I have said this for years, and I've talked to some very prominent, very influential Democrats behind the scenes. I've said, I think this Newsom, I think he is your best guy. And sometimes they'll mock me. Oh, he's a pretty face. Oh, no way. No chance. He's nothing. He's, he burned the city down. He can't run. Gavin Newsom is a slick politician. We have not seen the likes of this kind of politician since Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton was very, very effective at winning election. And if I were Newsom, I'd be doing the exact same thing that he's doing right now. So you got that tack to the center. And then just to prove to you that it's not just a one-off and it's not just Newsom's ambition, big story from Politico. Rahm Emanuel. Do you remember that name? Rahm Emanuel, gearing up to run for president. Speaking of Clinton world figures, former chief of staff to the president, to President Obama, former Clinton world figure, former ambassador to Japan under Joe Biden, former mayor of Chicago, former member of that. This is a guy, he's had every job in Democrat politics. And Rahm Emanuel wants the top job. And Rahm Emanuel is, by the standards of the Democrat Party today, a moderate. Is this the revenge of the moderates? Can they get over their base? I don't think Rahm can, but Gavin Newsom possibly can. That's it. That's the only hope the Democrats have. I don't want to give them free advice like this, but that's how it is. Okay, today is Theology Thursday. We have a special guest on. Make sure that you tune in. If you are a member of the hoi polloi, who are just watching or listening to this on a public platform, it's good, but it's not the best. What you need to do is go to DailyWire Plus. You need to subscribe, become a member, use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.